Hey everyone! In a world that's just packed with choices, how do you make the smart bet? How do you pick the best option when you're facing uncertainty? Well, today we're diving into a really powerful idea from reinforcement learning that helps us answer that exact question. We're going to break down something called the gradient bandit algorithm.
So let's just kick things off with a fundamental question. When you're trying something new, how do you explore all your different options without, just guessing randomly? Is there a smarter way to test the waters? That is the exact problem we're going to tackle today.
And finding that smarter way is all about moving beyond just random exploration. It's about learning how to place a much, much smarter bet.
Now, at the heart of this whole thing is a classic challenge in AI, exploration versus exploitation. So, picture this. You're at your favorite food court. Do you go to the taco stand that you know is amazing? That's exploitation. You're cashing in on what you know. Or do you try that brand new sushi place that just opened up? It might be even better, or it might be terrible. That's exploration. Now, the simplest approach is just to be random, like, say, 1 out of every 10 times you just force yourself to try something new. But we can do so much better than just being random.
So, how should we explore? Well, simple exploration treats every single new option as equally interesting. It's basically like picking a new restaurant by just throwing a dart at a map. You have no idea what you're going to get, but there's a much more nuanced approach, preference-based exploration. Here, we use what we've already learned to make an educated guess. Some new options just feel more promising than others, right? And this is the core idea behind gradient bandit algorithms.
To make this all crystal clear, let's ground it in a simple story. We'll call this a music producer's dilemma. It's a perfect analogy for how this works.
So I want you to imagine you're a music producer, and you've got a limited budget, you've got this whole roster of talented new artists, but you can only afford to promote one of them this month. Your entire job is to pick the artist that you think is most likely to become a hit and generate a ton of streaming revenue. Okay, so let's meet the cast in our little story. You, the music producer, you're our learning agent. You're the one making the tough decisions. The artists themselves, well, they're the different actions or choices you can take. And the streaming revenue, that's the reward. That's what you get after making your choice. Pretty simple, right? So how does our producer actually make a decision? What's going on in their head? Well, let's open up their playbook and take a look at the core components of their strategy. Inside this playbook, our producer relies on 4 key tools. First, they have a gut feeling about each artist. We'll call these action preferences. Then, they turn that feeling into actual odds, or action probabilities. They measure success against a baseline to figure out what good even looks like. And, most importantly, they have an update rule that lets them learn from every single outcome. Let's break those down one by one. First up, action preferences. Just think of this as the producer's private gut feeling about each artist. It's really just a numerical score. A high score means the producer has a really strong belief in that artist's potential. A low score means they're kind of skeptical. It's not a probability yet, just an internal rating. Okay, next, the producer has to turn that gut feeling into an actual decision. And that's where action probabilities come in. They use a clever bit of math to convert all those internal scores into actual percentages. So an artist with a really high preference score might get, say, a 70% chance of being promoted, while another one gets 20%, and so on. This is how the bet actually gets placed. The third tool is the baseline, and this is super important. To know if an artist is a real hit, the producer needs to manage their expectations. So the baseline is simply the average streaming revenue they've seen across all the artists they've promoted so far. It gives them a crucial reference point for what a typical or average result actually looks like. And here is where the learning really happens. After promoting an artist, the producer looks at the revenue. Was it better than their average? Better than the baseline? If so, their gut feeling about that artist gets stronger. Their preference score goes up. But if the song totally flopped and came in below average, well, their preference score goes down. Every single result updates their expectations for the future. But here's the crucial detail, the part that makes this so clever. This system is all relative. When the producer's belief in the artist they just promoted changes, their belief in all the other artists also shifts, but in the opposite direction. So if one artist is a surprise hit and their preference score shoots way up, the producer automatically becomes just a little bit more skeptical of everyone else. It keeps the whole system in balance. Okay, so we've seen all the pieces of the puzzle. Now let's put them all together and watch how one full learning cycle actually works.
taking an artist from just a demo all the way to a potential hit.
So here's how the cycle goes. At the start of the month, the producer has no clue who's good, so every artist starts with an equal chance. They pick one based on those odds, and they promote their song. At the end of the month, they check the revenue. Was it a hit or a miss compared to the average? And based on that result, they adjust their gut feelings, bumping up the score for the winner and slightly lowering it for everyone else. Then, next month, they do the whole thing all over again. But this time, their bet is just a little bit smarter.
So after all of that, what is the core lesson here? What's the one key takeaway you should really remember from this whole explainer? Well, it all comes down to this one question. Why is comparing a result to an average baseline so much more powerful than just looking at the raw reward itself? For example, why is knowing an artist made $500 more than average so much more meaningful than just knowing they made $1,500? And the answer is right here. Gradient Bandit algorithms learn which actions are the best, not in isolation, but in comparison to the average of all the other options. See, it's not about just being good. It's about being better than average. And that simple, powerful idea is what makes this a truly smart way to bet.